Greetings. Greetings. Good evening. Yom Tov Yom Shishi. I did that all wrong.
Greetings, peace, everyone.
We have a new guest. So good evening. Greetings, everyone. First, of course, as always, let's open the space giving thanks to the Most High Yah. We are grateful that we can be in this space this evening as we head into our Shabbat. We are closing down our external and getting ready to open up our internal, and this is how we like to do it. Also, giving thanks to Chief Yuya for allowing this space for us to use, and apologies for the big old ring in the back. We didn't think that through. But also, I'm going to move over to the chat. Greetings, Chief Yuya. Thank you for joining us. Greetings, Achot Kashia. Loud and clear. Awesome. Greetings, Sister Munira. I think that's it. Greetings. Yes. So this is going to be a special Shema because we're actually in the same space. I'm going to try something because these lights are hot. Can you see us? Are we okay?
Yeah. Is it clear?
Is it clear? Can you hear me now? It's like changed, but whatever. Yeah, well, if it doesn't look good, just let us know, and we'll have our ET phone home light come on in the back. It looks like an international graphic, actually. In the back? Yes. Okay, looks fine. All right, fine. Great. Okay, so good. Sister Maksha, can you hit us with the preface? I can go like this now.
Of course. You can turn and talk. So greetings, everyone. Greetings, peace, Chief Yuya, Sister Kashia, Sister Maxine, and I see Sister Manira in the chat. So I will read the preface. This book is not to be read only once. Read the words of this book of knowledge and wisdom out loud. Discuss the convictions of this work with your Anu brothers and sisters. Share this information with your people. This publication should be read daily. Every line in this book can be taken out of context and studied on the strength of its own potential. The truth is to be deliberated.
Say the last line once again for the people in the back.
The truth is to be deliberated.
Okay, and that's what we are doing today. We are sharing our understanding of the Anu way and deliberating them. So, we are, guess what, y'all? We still in family. It's a long chapter. It is very long because it's important, because we don't see a lot of those, right? We don't see the nuclear family anymore, and there's all these kinds of attacks on the nuclear family. So that's why it's a long chapter. We're going to spend some time on it. So we have taken you through generational curses, the stages of courtship, what that looks like, and the brothers last week opened us up to the second stage, which is betrothal. So last strong, they talked about betrothal and what it is, and they kind of touched on what we're going to focus on today, which is separation. So there's a period of separation within the betrothal, and we're going to go into the reading that explains that and deliberate on why. And we do have a question for this evening, so I'll put the question in after Sister Moksha's reading of the passage.
Okay, so I'm reading that second paragraph, right?
Yes, so okay. We're under family, betrothal, and the second paragraph under betrothal.
All right, let's go. We require the separation because this allows time for the man of the house to get his affairs in order, to correctly accept a woman into his homestead. During this period, he may build an addition onto his house, expand a business, acquire tools that the woman may need to properly perform her function, fortify his emergency resources, and so forth. Anu men must have 1 year of food for 2 adults at minimum in surplus storage before being considered qualified for matrimony. An Anu woman must be able to demonstrate her capability outlined in her womanhood passage.
Okay, so let's get into it.
All right.
So in the preface, we talk about each line being able to stand on its own. So in our regular fashion, we are going to break this passage down line by line. So you want to take the first one?
I'll take the first one. And the what sticks out in that first, and I'll reread it, but what sticks out is that idea of separation, right? That pulling away and that distance at that period of time. It seems very important, and the idea of preparation is reiterated here, but it's said over and over, I feel, throughout the whole section on family. Mm-hmm. This idea of preparation, preparation, preparation. So the first sentence reads, I'll reread it. We require the separation because this allows time for the man of the house to get his affairs in order, to correctly accept a woman into his homestead. Mm-hmm. And so apart from separation, I thought that another piece to zoom in on was to get his affairs in order. And I'm not a man, so I cannot speak to that. But I can say that, that affairs in order can speak to many things. The idea of accepting a woman into his homestead may not mean that he's accepting a first woman into his homestead. So that getting the affairs in order could be him delegating a welcoming of the new woman or the new sister into the homestead. All right. And that may mean that everyone else is also prepared as well mentally for a new person, right? Or a new woman coming into the family or the homestead. So I think those things are important to consider. And even though it points out that the period of separation allows for the man to prepare his affairs, there's also the other side of it, right? Mm-hmm. That woman needs to prepare as well, right? There has to be what?
I forgot to put the question in the chat. Keep going, and I'm going to put the question after you're done.
Yeah, but I just thought of, the other side of the coin, right? That the woman also has to be prepared. She, during that last stage of courtship, there's a lot that was revealed to her. And, she may not be aware of the full vision, but is at this moment aware of where her positioning would be and, what she brings in and where she will be functioning within that homestead. Mm-hmm. And so I think that period of separation allows for her to prepare herself to function properly mm-hmm. within that role.
Yeah. So with that being said, we are going to put the question in the chat early so you have time to ponder it and answer throughout to get the chat going. So the question is, what will you do to prepare? Okay, what will you do to prepare? I'm going to take this off so maybe move it down a little bit.
Makes it easier.
And that is huge. I don't remember it being so huge, but okay, so everybody can see it.
Short question.
Yeah, for sure. That's probably true. Yes. What will you do to prepare? So to add on to what you were saying about the separation and everybody prepping, one thing that I thought of when I was reading this was yes, getting affairs in order, but even before that. So you're having this time of separation and you're just coming off of courtship, right? So betrothal is the next stage after courtship. So during this time of separation, you can also use these moments to reflect on either the last 3, 6, or 9 months, whatever your time span was, because remember, it should be no less than 3 and no longer than 9. And you should be able to reflect on that. And that gives you an idea, because that was your period of discovery, right? So that could probably give you an idea of what you will expect, what to expect. It is to give you an idea of what to expect during married life. So it's good to reflect on that and what has happened, because not everybody may make it to that stage, because remember, the courtship part is just to get to know one another. The fact that you've made it through to betrothal is a really big deal. So, really take that time to reflect. What?
Well, I'm laughing you say a really big deal, but to those who aren't accustomed to going through a courtship, an additional period of separation may seem challenging.
Yes,
You know,
it may.
and I keep thinking about how that idea of distancing or separating during that time is ideal because it helps you to, as you said, reflect, but then you consider all that the various upgrades and changes that you would have to make to adjust yourself and prepare yourself as a woman for the culture that you're taking on and being absorbed into.
Yeah. So we were talking before. I'm just gonna say, we were talking before. We always prep. And actually you mentioned it about like the woman like preparing herself, not just internally and externally, right? So there's all of that prep going on, and that hence the question, what will you do to prepare? So that's for both the men and the women. And as the man is getting his homestead in order, as he's taking that time to correctly accept the woman, this is the time, like as women, for us to, think about that period of discovery, right? We had the time to reflect. So think about that period of discovery and what were some of the things, if you were listening with your eyes, right? Remember the listening with your eyes. We talked about that rat-a-tat-tat, right? With Shema. Listen with your eyes and as well as your ears. What were you able to discern, even through his words, but what were you able to discern through his actions to discern what is needed, how you will be a helpmeet within the homestead. So that's what you should be doing to prepare as well. So if there is a need maybe for a skill set that maybe you don't have or have to refresh yourself on, and of course it's all the way over there. Okay. If you have to refresh yourself, maybe I should like speak louder. Yes. Why do people do this? I'm gonna call like right now because I have something to say when you really don't have anything to say. You'll take this time to reflect on, how you gain and build up those skills. How you gain and build up those skills to be of service to the homestead. As Sister Moksha said, as you said, you may be number 2, number 3, right, number 4. Right. And so how will your skill set also merge and mesh with the skill set that's already there, right? So those are some of the things that we as women should be thinking about to prep ourselves. So anything else?
I'll probably add after because a thought came to mind, but it left.
Good. Oh, okay. All right. So we'll get it back. Okay. So on to the next sentence. During this period, he may build an addition onto his house, expand a business, acquire tools that the woman may need to properly perform in her function, fortify his emergency resources, and so forth. So when I read this sentence, I really thought about each of these things. So it kind of goes into what I just said. Like you should also be thinking about what are those skill sets that you have, and also what are the skill sets that you don't have. So during this time of preparation, not only prepping your body like physically and internally, but also prepping the skills that you have or don't have. So like maybe you need to start taking up carpentry. Maybe you need to start taking up sewing, some of those things that would help because we're thinking about nation building, right? So, and nation building, it encompasses a lot, especially if we think about what's happening now. We probably have to be prepared for more than what we thought. Maybe you need to learn how to farm. Maybe you need to learn how to cultivate vegetables and stuff and grow your own food. Yeah, it might be that. It might be like that. It might be like that. I don't know. Looking a little scary.
I think about. I wanted you finish. Yeah, I actually think about how many times we see the men addressed in this particular paragraph, right? And I realize that because the woman is being the preparation is being done by the man to absorb or to receive this woman. There's she may do some sort of preparation, but it is there is an expectation and a lot of preparation that the man has to go through as well. And I find that significant because again, she isn't taken into her world; she's being absorbed into his, and so that that also leaves that preparation also for the woman would require her to begin to cut those threads and those ties to the secular world and the outside world, because because you've been functioning one way, and then there's that culture change. That culture change is going to shift the way you function as a woman. And I think the focus here is there's a lot of focus, on the man and his preparation, because that's indicative of what it is that you have to do as a woman. You have to be prepared to come into someone else's space, into the man's world.
I just thought of something.
There's a lot of
man's world. I'm gonna go over to the chat, but I had a thought and I don't want to forget it. This sentence also reminded me of, because we're talking about the things that were outlined, expand, like adding additional parts to the house, right? Adding additional sections to the house, expanding the business, right? And then those two alone. So the first part, it actually reminded me of a film, Sister Wives. Yes. Sister Wives. And in the film, it's a documentary, and they are speaking to a family, and the man of the homestead just took on a second wife. And he actually starts to, before the wedding, I think it was before, he started to build on to the family's home to prepare for the wife to come into the household. So, it's a real thing. Like, it's not like we're going to come in, we're just going to bunk. We're going to bunk up. We're going to bump it. No, there's everybody's adults, and, adults need space. So there's a reality that has to kick in, where it's like we need to make sure that the homestead is appropriate for this huge, or expanding family. Even the part about the business, you may come in, if you're a younger sister, maybe you don't have, you're not coming in with, income in that way. And it's like, the family, the man in his homestead, maybe there's already a business, but there's another mouth to feed. And if you may be coming in, if you're an older sister coming in, maybe you do have funds, or maybe you have children. There's more mouths to feed. So there has to be practical thinking, right, of how to increase income, and so that everybody can eat, literally. So I'm going to move over to the chat because it's moving quickly. Yes. So Sister Kashida says, separation, it is a time for me to say goodbye to my previous world. As stated in the Anu way, this could include job resignation, transfer, reflection, and learning needed skills the man may require. Learning the needed skills the man may require. Absolutely. And Chief says, for me, preparation is determined by that last phase conversations. For me, ensuring emotional availability is a large part of universal mating preparation. Yes. You know what? I wonder, like, if you reach the betrothal stage and and then the separation, you are preparing. What happens if, you've gone through the courtship, but at some point, because there will be like a reflecting, right, in that preparation, and then maybe you find out that there may have been a shift, and like emotional availability may not be something that's up to the standard that it needs to be on either side. So that might be an extra question, but if anybody has anything, please feel free to share in the chat. I don't know. It just came to me with reading that comment. No, we'll think about it.
I have to think about it.
We'll think about it. Sister Kashia said, would the man determine during the courtship period what must be done during the separation period? Would that be outlined specifically during the man's plan? I think so. I think if we take it back to what was learned in courtship, right? He's telling you what his vision is, right? So remember, we should be seeing with our eyes. And maybe there will be some further instruction. This is what I need, because maybe that's a part of the preparation, because he's going to acquire, in this sentence, he's going to acquire the tools that the woman may need to properly perform in her function. And maybe there does need to be some instruction on this is how it's going to, go down. So I think that's something that might depend on the homestead, right? Whether there's like this plethora of instruction while you're prepping, or it comes like after, and you just you prep during that separation based on what was done in the courtship.
Yeah, and I mean I definitely think that would be specified during that period, that ending period of courtship. And I say that because we do see toward the end of this paragraph, we'll talk a little bit more and expound on it, but the woman is required to demonstrate capability. Mm-hmm. So then it means that during those last bits of conversation, because again, this is a separation. And I know it's hard to imagine what that probably looks like after spending so many months and, having all of those excursions and so on during the third phase of courtship. Museum, she says museums. And then there's that structure that's in this additional structural separation. I can see how that period has to be for development and growth, so that you're prepared to come into that space and function properly. And maybe that means, based on Chief's previous comment about emotional availability, maybe that emotional availability, maybe that means that there is some. What's that? That's all right.
The questions have been answered, and I'm like, oh.
But that probably means that woman would have to take time to prepare herself, right, and to focus on things like emotional maturity, and those are critical things. And so maybe that is something that will be pointed out to her by her potential covering and mate. Yes.
So Chief says the focus is also more than the man, because she should have been primed and trained from birth by her family. Absolutely. So like, as I think Ima Precious and I went over this before, a lot of what we're going over in the Anu, you'll notice like it is for it's for women. There, this is instruction for everybody. But a lot of things it's foundations, right? So it's taking us from the beginning. So this is being, with the understanding that, this is the culture that you've been raised in. But we know, like many of us have, we have come in from Babylon and like, dysfunction, coming in. So like there may have to be like some adjustments in how we do it, because there's gonna have been maybe like a passage, like, because some of us are way past like rite of passage to womanhood. So there's going to be other ways that we acknowledge womanhood within this, and for women who are coming in older. Thank you, Sister Kashia. Do you want to read Brother Antonio?
I can. Brother Antonio says, there's a lot that comes to mind. I will prepare by ensuring that all of the systems that sustain my household are running as smoothly as possible, so the transition is a smooth one for her. Okay. She says he was living the king's life. Oh, this is from Sister Wife. Yes, king's life. I think that's all you heard about.
Sister Wife. Yeah.
It is a great film. It is a great film to just look at how relationships unfold when it comes to multiple family members in a home. Chief Yuya.
Yeah, I just thought of another film, but no, I could talk about it afterward. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. She says, typically the family elders will guide what should happen during the separation period. I see. Okay.
Give thanks.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot. Oh my gosh, we so slow.
Yes. Antonio says, depending on what was covered during the courtship, add focus on the things I was advised to work on by my Jegna as well. Okay. All right. So, and I think that ties back to Chief's previous statement that the elders, I'm sorry, I forgot that the camera is right there. But Antonio's statement actually ties right back to Chief's statement about the elders being the ones that not dictate, but identify which areas should be focused on during that separation period.
Okay. namely personality defect. Yeah, remember we talked about like, the melon that we I guess some people call it, what was it? SAD, seasonal affect disorder. Maybe you happy one season. This is why the courtship should go over seasons. So something like personality defects, willingly that would have come out during the period of discovery. We wouldn't have got all the way to betrothal without that happening. But, there's outliers.
She speaks to what should happen if there is a lack of emotional maturity. Okay, I can read it. He says if she is not emotionally mature, the entire courtship should be aborted. An emotionally immature person is a serious danger to everyone.
Very. Because she says, shouldn't that measurement of emotional maturity be discovered before entering into a courtship? I do know some may be clever to hide that, though not a righteous move. Yeah, like some people, maybe they're good actors or actresses, Right. Yeah, but it is something that should be discovered. But well, some people. I mean, you'd be surprised what some people can do.
You mean in terms of speaking, in terms of the hiding?
Yeah, and not even within a courtship, just hiding who they are. But I think when you are moving righteous, like that'll they say nothing done under the sun is a secret, or everything done in the dark will eventually come to light. So if it doesn't come,
oh no, I was saying I don't know the other one.
I don't know. I might have heard it in that song. I don't know, but what's done in the dark will come to light. That's the one we're going to use. But yeah, because guess what? That direction is light. So you're gonna get you're gonna get like the flashlight Officer Krupke. Get out of that corner.
I definitely I wanted to touch back on the statement an emotionally immature person is a serious danger to everyone. Because if you're welcoming and receiving a woman into your homestead, and again, we talked about this before, that homestead, it may not just be the house. Right? I'm sorry, Corina. It may not just be the house. The homestead can include children and other wives, and right. So it's not just the structure. All right, and it's not just the culture and two consorts and that's it. But the family may be an extended family. The family may have additional wives, and so that maturity is key because there are other things that can come up. Right? And you could probably list a few, and I'm saying you could probably list a few because I can think of one or two, things like jealousy and resentment and, anger, if not addressed properly, those things. Right, that goes right back to the film, Sister Wife, right? So those...
Okay, Belinda.
Oh my goodness. So those are things that can... When she says it can be a danger to everyone, those emotions that come out, if you can't control or have emotional maturity to speak or address certain things, it can actually be a detriment to everyone.
So and it's and that is the sign of like a selfish person, because you're not even thinking that your actions and attitudes and functions and thoughts and words will affect someone else, because like it is going to manifest through your actions and your behavior, and that is a detriment to everyone, especially if it's negative.
Right.
So, but we can cauterize things. So Chief says yes, but it may come to light after marriage. Good actresses is sealed after marriage is sealed and babies are made. So it is best to dig and be authentic about what you find. And this is where when somebody, people might want to scatter like bugs and don't tell me about myself, or you maybe it's told and you can be like, all right, you're right, you got that, and then you take it and you keep it moving, you correct it, acknowledge it, correct it, and keep it moving. And maybe it's something that wasn't discovered, but if it's something that can be brought to you and you can shift and correct it, you can be corrected, then that is a sign of emotional maturity, right? Peace, Padmini 14:4, 144.
All right. Greetings, Pat. 144.
144.
Right. And it's interesting when you think about this idea of it coming to light, right? This idea of immaturity coming to light after marriage is sealed and babies are made, because the truth is those babies, like if we talk about knowledge, wisdom, understanding, we're talking about babies being the sum total of the two.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now you have to wonder what is being deposited into, right? Or what, yeah.
Conscious creation.
Right. So, that becomes something that has to be, you not only have to work on that person, but then you have to focus on how that manifests in your youth.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to leave the chat for a second so we can move to the next sentence. So that's you.
So the next sentence reads, so I like the next sentence just because it really helps to underscore the idea. When you talk about emergency resources, prior to last year or January, people would not have had emergency resources at the forefront of their minds. Like, I don't think so, unless you're a prepper, But this kind of helps to expound on what emergency resources he would be fortifying, right? The Anu men must have 1 year of food for 2 adults at minimum in surplus storage before being considered qualified for matrimony.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that comes to mind is prepping, right? that is, and it is the only thing that comes to mind, because the truth is, before the ideas of the contemporary ideas of prepping,
mm-hmm.
People were into canning and food preservation and making sure that they preserved food and had stockpiles of storage of food just to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are other reasons for it, but that's one of the expectations for an Anu man, to have that surplus. And again, it isn't just enough for both of them, but it has to be surplus for, what is it, 1 year, right? 1 year. So that means that you should be able to financially afford to purchase food storage, but also to store that food.
Mm-hmm.
That's also necessary, right? To think about. So it's not just the food, because then you'll be like, well, where does it go?
Mm-hmm.
You have to consider having the land, the space, the real estate to actually store that amount of food for 2 adults. And that had me thinking, well, if you intend to expand the family, right, and have children, then you have to consider expanding on that food storage as well, because then you'll be thinking about youth.
Yeah. I just thought of another movie.
Share it.
So, okay. It makes me think about the film A Quiet Place. Yes, it was a horror film, but we're not going to get into that. The father prepped. They made sure, like, yes, it's the aliens, they're going to eat people, but that space, their entire space, because we're talking about like having stores enough for the entire family, right? So it's not just, so if you're coming in and you're maybe number 2, number 3, number 4, there's already stores there, but now those stores have to increase, right? And so it just made me think of this film where he prepped and secured his family to be able to survive. And they survived, like, you pay attention to the film, like, for some years, in this space, on this entire farm, had food stores, a whole cellar with storage and supplies. So it's not just food, it's all the supplies that you might need. And this is what I was talking about before, when it comes to like making sure that, if it has to be expanding the business, an additional part to the house, or fortifying like emergency resources, right? And so we're thinking like, we may be locked down again soon. So what do your emergency resources look like for those of you who are currently courting? For those of you who are not Anu in the chat, I guess your equivalent would be dating, but just to be clear, we don't date. But, just to give you like a reference, a frame of reference. I'm just being honest. So I just want to go because Kashia did say something in the chat. It goes from the I to we when integrating into any homestead. Actually, shouldn't that we aspect should be there even before that? Nation building is the culture, absolutely, because within you, like the family is a microcosm of the community. But we also talk about, I shouldn't say but, and we also speak about, having harmony and unity. So you have to have, there is going to be that part where it is I, because you have to make sure that there's that harmony within yourself and understanding what's inside and projecting it outward. And that outward is how you fit into the community. So that we should always also be there, but the I is there as well. Because you have to know who you are, so you know who to connect with, right? That's 14 keys.
That I is critical, because there has to be that acknowledging of self to a degree, because you don't want to push any, what should I say, any lack of maturity, or any skills that are undeveloped, or so you do not want to use the we so that it becomes someone else's problem. You want to make sure that you identify where those personal issues or areas of lack are, so that they can be fleshed out and they can be fixed. But I see the value of changing and shifting that I mindset to we, and not just
when it should be.
When it should be.
Right. Because that shifting to the we and making it somebody else's problem, that's really the I in secret, because you're just trying to make sure you're okay. I wanted to add on to one of your points when you spoke about having the surplus storage and emergency resources, but those emergency resources not just being food. You also pointed out that there should be preparation, and everyone in the homestead should be prepared to shelter in. You mentioned that, right? In our backstage conversation.
Right, in our backstage, right. Because we were having some conversation backstage just to prepare. And that, those are one of the things that Sister Deidre actually brought up. And I thought about it as like, well, there should also be preparation at that time to rendezvous elsewhere. What if sheltering in at that moment is not what's appropriate and is safe, and the man has to take homestead, pack everybody, Georgie bundle and move? And if that's the case, then you need to have a rendezvous point. You need to have a place or another homestead or home where you can physically remove yourself from your current location and move to a safer place. And those are additional ways that a man can prepare for the expanding family.
I just thought of a question, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm going to pose it to everyone else and let's see what they think. If you're moving, we're still answering the initial question. This is the question of the night. What will you do to prepare? So let's get them answers in there, because I see 14 people watching. Don't make me be one of those people. I'm stop it right now. No, I won't do that. If you are in betrothal, let's say we go on lockdown, and things have to be, the house is in the middle of being fortified, but then we have to shelter in, bug out. What's happening? Does the betrothed couple, which would be equivalent to engagement, which is what the brothers went over last night, that final sentence in the previous paragraph, the time of betrothal would be considered engagement. So what happens, right? Because you're in a period of separation. So if we move into that space again, because I'm trying to bring it to, we're going to bring this to what's happening currently, what's happening right now. Do you end the period of betrothal and you expedite coming into the homestead, or do you continue separated to wait until, that time is over? When we, when the lockdown, comes out. I don't know.
I
don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Whatever.
Right. Well, that's a great question for
I don't know.
all of the brothers in the chat, because I don't have the answer.
I don't know. I don't have the answer. I think it would be dependent on the person. So
I think it would. I would say yes. I guess it depends on how dire the situation is, but I would say yes, because it, to keep the process of betrothal authentic and to make sure things are in place and they happen properly. I think it makes sense, but
to expedite.
not to
expedite,
expedite,
okay.
but to actually, because I feel like not I feel because it's not about what I feel, but that time was selected, with a purpose. That period of time, and I always think about the idea of 9 months of pregnancy every single time I see the 3 and the 9, right? And I think betrothal is 3 to 9 months, right? No,
I think it's like when you complete all the things that have to be done within betrothal. Within that time period, like there's things that have to be done. Once they're complete, then it's like the betrothal can end. That's how I understand it. But please, people, share what you think. Share. We deliberating. I don't know. Okay,
and you have to put your question in the chat too.
The one that
yes,
I'll say it over because stuff is everywhere. Brother Antonio said, "A peace to everyone that's coming to chat. Who used the system? I see peace. Ricochet. Peace, Brother Antonio. Peace, Mama Sequoia. I think I saw Aquia in here. We are so behind this chat. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. And I'm so sorry if we missed some folks, but maybe we'll have time to come back. Should a person with mentality even enter courtship? You mean mental illness? Would their elder not identify that? Are they still qualified to even enter courtship? I hope we all have a mentality. No?
Is it with the I mentality?
Oh, clarify, please. You probably did because we're behind. We are like 6 minutes behind, which is a lot. A woman coming into a family should increase stores and wealth, not chip away at them. Don't fall for the I am the table narcissistic rhetoric. Absolutely. So like if you're coming in, like you may be coming in and maybe you're not that established, but you need to be prepared to work. This is about nation building, so everybody's got a job to do. Everybody's got to pull their weight. If you're coming in as an older woman and maybe a little bit more established, like it is not my money and your money, it's ours. You're coming in to contribute to the homestead, and that's how that works. That's how it should work. Shalom and my South Darling. Yes, they are here. Brother Cruz says the preparation phase is a powerful measurement for ANU men regarding their levels of readiness for family development. Hit the like button. Yes. Yes. Thank you. That would really suck. Okay. Sister Maxine says, what I've been doing to prepare is refining skill sets and gathering more skills, fasting, getting the healthier, and improving my physicality, releasing old habits, being transparent. Yes. Preparation, homestead, security, increase whole life insurance policy. Thank you. These are concrete. Increase whole life insurance policy, earn more income to accommodate more children, acquire more land for expansion of the members of the homestead. And see, those are things that may take some time. So then I guess another question is like, depending on how long some of what you need to do for betrothal to prepare, will you extend your betrothal period out that long? Because it may take some time to acquire land, like the buying and selling may take a long time, but maybe not. So, do you adjust? Like if something may take a little longer, it's like, but it'll be here within X amount of weeks or months, when the sister gets to my homestead or, of my homestead, of the homestead expanding. Brother Antonio says, whose covering would she be under during this time of separation? Well, if she is a righteous woman, she's coming from a righteous ANU household, she should be under the covering of her father. If she's not, then she should be under the covering. If she's an older woman who was not born into ANU or came in very young and raised with ANU culture, then it would be her covering, because we do have a covering initiative. It would be her covering, yeah, if she's coming in older or an elder in the community. I would think so. Willfully, that answers your question.
Sorry, if she's not a part of the ANU community, it would be an elder in her community.
Well, I think during the court, if she's not a member of the ANU community, she shouldn't be courting an ANU man. So I think she would have had to come into ANU before she can go through courtship at all. But then once she's an Anu woman, that time of separation, once she's has gone through her orientation to become Anu, and then gone through a courtship period, her covering, she would be under the covering of an elder or her covering from the covering initiative.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I wasn't. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Okay.
All
right. Well,
I think we
move on.
caught up.
Yeah.
There was a lot of chatter.
Oh no, no.
Oh
So
no,
she
there's
says,
more. There's more.
You cross that bridge when you come to it. If people are covered by family physically, the emergency is less of one. If she's across the country by herself, your response would reflect that.
Okay. Can you ask your second question once more, sisters? So the second question, or the supplemental question was, given the time that we are in right now with what's happening currently, if you are at the stage of betrothal, would you expand it to match the time that you have to shelter in place, or would you expedite the betrothal period to bring the sister into your household sooner? But we have the answer from Chief saying you cross that bridge when you come to it. I'll read it again. You cross that bridge when you come to it. If people are covered by family physically, the emergency is less of one. So that, to me, I'm understanding that as you may not need to expedite. Mm-hmm. But if she is living like across the country and she's on her own, she's like physically in a house or apartment by herself, then you make a decision based on that. That's how I understand that. I was referring to Brother Antonio's comment to me in the chat. I don't know. Oh, the mentally, the mentality. Yeah. Okay. Then we must have skipped it. Apologies. Yes, my last response was in that. My last comment was in response to the second question. Yes. To your question, Achot Kashia, it would be at the discretion of their elder. The courtship process presents an opportunity for Anu members to get to know one another. It would be up to those courting. I don't remember the question, but we're going to keep moving. Yes. I think we got one more sentence left.
We do have one more sentence. But I wanted to point out, I found myself thinking about preparation again. And, there is a part of preparation that we must do in order to be great mates. But, the Anui also charges us to consider that a large part of our preparation will be knowledge, wisdom, and understanding given to for us, will be given to us by our Creator. Mm-hmm. So there's that level of moving through the courtship and trusting the process, but also trusting and holding on to, that developing your relationship with the Creator so that you understand how to be prepared, mm-hmm. right? Including all of the other, rites of passage that should have happened or would have happened earlier. And for women who would not have had those opportunities, I won't say I went through a rites of passage, so to speak. I don't feel that way, right? I don't think so, right? When I think about the idea of that celebration and that actual process where certain things are laid out, it's not necessarily there. But there, now that we're older, there has to be a level of trusting that process, the process of courtship and that separation period.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of passage, rites of passage, so the final sentence in this passage, in this paragraph, is an Anu woman must be able to demonstrate her capability outlined in her womanhood passage. So I guess this is what you were referring to.
Yes.
It's okay. Yes, and when we were speaking backstage, I was like, I didn't have a rite of passage, like an official, and in my head, I was thinking a concrete thing, like a ritual or a ceremony. However, and I'm always like, well, I didn't get any of that, but I did get it in passing. So I was taught certain things that prepped me, to have some of those capabilities, but it wasn't. It was, as we say, in my head, I was like, yeah, but it was unintentional. It was just like, okay, you have to learn how to do this. And it was like to help mom in the household. But some of it, as you mentioned, is like, it's that unspoken, this is what I'm teaching you because you'll need this, right? I do think that there does need to be that conversation. I didn't get that conversation. Like I got, some of the skills passed along, whatever skills were known, they were passed along to me, and some of them excelled at, and some of them was like, um, but there wasn't that, there wasn't that 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 singular event that says now you're a woman. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So when we think about like, Anu women must be able to demonstrate her capability, we were like, okay, well, who validates you or recognizes you as a woman? And it's the community. So it's like, well, what do we do here? And we do have like, there's pieces of that happen within orientation. You come through orientation, like it may not be like, this is our sacred sister circle ceremony, but you do come through orientation with understanding as we go through all of the necessary pieces of how an Anu woman is supposed to function. And so once that is done and you're a part of the community, there is this acknowledgement of who the men are and who the women are. And I think like, moving forward, as we have young girls and women come up, the elders at that point,
yes,
then we do develop something, that is in a loving space, and also they get that from, each their individual family units of what is expected and what, they learn from their mothers and their elders what those capabilities are, and making sure that they excel at them. And there's also further in the book, which we'll get to at some point, maybe next year, because we are taking our time with this reading. We talk about what the capabilities of a woman should be. Right. So I'm not going to jump the gun because that's far, far ahead.
And specifically the attributes of an Anu woman. So, it is hinting toward there being some sort of standard for what womanhood is within Anu, or what Anu womanhood is or should look like. Even though we're saying and acknowledging, there's some things we learn and we learn in passing, or we learn because our parents wanted us to, help maintain certain things, without saying explicitly, you're actually learning these particular things because it's preparation, it's training, and then there should be some openness about that. But
it not necessarily, because I was thinking, oh well, that's the kitchen set that I had one of those Fisher Price kitchen sets with the fold up table, and one side is the refrigerator and one side is the oven, and you can no. And then, and then baby dolls,
But those are only a reflection of those domestic skills. There are many others.
Right.
I mean, one that was pointing out earlier was the idea of emotional maturity, and communication is another.
Yeah.
And so they're all,
and those are seriously lacking.
Those are
not me.
I
was that's not what I was saying. I did not mean to say that like that. Oops. Like here in the secular world, like a lot of people, a lot of women, even because in my own experience, like people lack communication skills. It is a whole business to give people or to teach people how to communicate. That means people seriously lack communication skills. So like those are things that should be taught in the home, and we learn later on, because it contributes to economics, right? That's your education. Like children should be taught how to communicate. So yeah, that's part of the capabilities.
It is economics, and things like financial know-how, and those are things that are an important part of being prepared, right? Those are capabilities that should be mastered before a certain age. And I say should be, but I know for myself, I'll be honest, like those things were not mastered at a certain age, and so it presents a problem.
Yeah, no, same. I think like in my head, like I didn't necessarily know how to say things. Like I learned some things like when you learn as you go along, right? But there are things I will say I realized when I went to college, like I was seriously behind in knowing how to communicate some things,
Right.
even just in using even the way that I spoke, because when you're surrounded by people who speak like you do, until you're immersed in an environment where people don't, then it's a problem. And it's like that communication is also learning how to speak with other people, how to work a room, right? It's also, we talk a lot about language. We always have these debates about language and how people speak. Language is
Right.
currency. So, learning how to communicate is key. And that's one of those skills that's not necessarily domestic, but it is an indication of how emotionally mature you are, because it's an indication of how you can express yourself.
I know Kashia said, would it be working on the things I thought Shamanique mentioned, working on during the separation period? I think,
Yeah, she mentioned like meditating. I don't want to. I thought I saw meditating. This is a lot of words, y'all. Meditation. Getting physically healthy, like paying attention to her physicality. Keep going.
There she is.
Right there. She said, Go ahead.
No, it's right there.
She said, refining skill sets, gathering more skills, fasting, getting healthier, and improving physicality, releasing old habits, and being transparent. So yes, those are some of the things. And it is going to vary per person, really, because, it's going to be dependent on, what your level of emotional maturity is, what level you're at, and whatever skill sets you have, based on what you do have, what you don't, and also based on you reflecting on your courtship and what was learned, and how you make sure that you are fitting within the man's household, because he's doing that as well. He's like getting things ready to absorb you into the homestead. So yeah, it is some of those things, but they may vary for every person.
Sister Kashia actually said she was speaking to Brother Antonio.
All right, y'all having your own
yes,
conversation.
they are.
Sorry.
Yes, they are. She
Right.
says, if you're can you see it? Because everything just shifted.
If you're self-absorbed, you're already the scum, the scorn. I'm like, oh gosh, the scorn of the Anu community. Yeah. Most likely you will grow old along with that spirit anyway. Yeah, you can't be like me, and I'm the best thing happening here. Yeah. And if you are, and goes to that, like, if you are, I would, and then you're hiding it, right? Like, it's this like, well, I think I'm this, but maybe you're hiding it. It's like everything done in the dark will come to light. And that's to me almost like, and maybe it's not almost, but like the equivalent of having like an agenda, because why is it just about you? What is it that you need for it to be, or what is it that you want? Because it's not about what you need. Clearly, if it's all about you and you're self-absorbed, it's just about fulfilling wants, and probably material ones or short-term things that are not lasting. So what agenda is that fulfilling?
And there must be a lot of misunderstanding, because if you're moving into a community such as Anu, then nation building is at the forefront. And that's about culture and groups and nation. Yes, definitely.
Us. Anu means we.
Us people here.
And us.
The things Maxine's mentioned should be ongoing activities. If someone betroths a person not even on that path, they have made a huge mistake. So that growth and development must be consistent and constant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we should be evolving.
Yes,
definitely. We should. If you're staying stagnant, you're gonna get left behind. Yeah, we should be evolving. We should be fluid, and what happens with water? It moves. We're supposed to keep moving. We're supposed to be sharks, right? Just keep
unless it's stagnant, and if it's stagnant, that's something else.
Then maybe,
but yes, constantly moving.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I did, but I was also reminded of another film.
Share it.
Doesn't matter what the film is. It was more so speaking like what the culture, when we talk about the preparation period. So there's that separation, right? And there's prep going on. There should be prep going on both sides. Yes, this passage is really speaking about the man prepping his home, but we're not exempt. We should, as women, we're not exempt. We should be prepping as well. And it just reminded me, like reading this, and it's from a film that I watched recently. Like some cultures that do practice polygyny, there are some cultures where it is actually the woman who has to prep the household for the new sister coming in. And in that prep, it's not just like physically preparing the space. It is also like alerting the community and the family that the household is expanding and that this new woman is coming in. So that prepping is not just like the tangible things that we talked in here. Those were examples, because remember it says so forth. Right. So it was just, to me, this is just an example. So the prepping encompasses a lot of things. And I'm not saying that that's in ANU, like, the women, you may have to do that. But it's just an example of when you're being absorbed into a household, everybody's prepping. The newly or the engaged, as well as the other family members. Everybody's prepping. There was also another piece that I wanted to mention, but I'm going to go to the chat first because it moves very quickly. Chief says, if you're looking for a nation builder, there should be evidence of building children and women beyond nephews, nieces, and students in a classroom at a job. That makes we mentality more distinct. Give thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's not just like, oh, you have the ability to gather women and make babies. It's a lot. You are the leader. And it's a nation, because a nation is more than just that immediate family. So we had another comment, like in the backstage. Her prep would be greatly influenced by what he disseminates to her pertaining her role. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Because we talked about it, and I forgot to mention it, and it was talking about, like, why you should, it's to Chief's earlier comment, like, don't come in here if you're not prepared to work. And there's a segment on, and I don't remember which segment it is, but Chief talks about, like, sometimes you want to watch out for those who might want to just come in and like take a break. Okay, now I can retire and I could just, and that's not what it is. You have to be prepared to help build a nation, right? And so I was thinking, like, when we mention, like, a lot of this on the way, it is speaking from the foundation for someone who's like grown up in it. So we have to make small adjustments for those of us who are coming in as adults, coming in from the secular world. And I was thinking, like, when the household is being prepared, you have to think about, if you're coming in with children, right? Oh, yes. All of that has to be prepped as well. So it's not just like the family that's already existing, the people that are already existing in the household. This man now has to prep for your children, because the truth is there's only two options. And I'm saying two because we are physically here in the West, where things are done differently. So if the children are with you, maybe because the other parent isn't around, like they've transitioned, he has to prepare for your children, and that would be a better situation if they weren't around, because then the children are totally absorbed into the culture. But if you are coming in with children, then he has to, prepare for everyone. And then it made me think of, like, cross-cultural unions. That's how we could kind of get into that situation, because again, if we're in the West and, the other parent of those children is around and they're kind of being split between those households, that could be an issue. So these are things that would, I guess, like, get sorted out in courtship, whether you want to move forward or not. But if you do move forward to that betrothal space, these are serious things to prep for. They don't just get like, okay, well, yeah, I'm just coming with everybody in tow. That's the prep. That is part of the prep too, prepping everyone to be absorbed into the culture.
Because there's a cultural shift.
Right.
And that cultural shift, everyone who's coming in has to be able to again, and the brothers will take up the rest of that conversation around, how the woman is going to prepare. But in that anticipation of the next paragraph, or the reading of the next paragraph in the next Shema, that preparation is, yes, not just her mindset, but her youth as well, if they are, being absorbed into that man's homestead.
Yes.
And I say if because, yeah, it's always an if.
I said it.
It's always an if.
One or two options. Just being honest.
Yes.
Just being honest. Okay. So, Chief says the retiree. Right. I forgot. There's a delay, and now we've caught up with the comments. Okay. The retiree is often outed by I am looking for polygamy statement. No one should look for polygamy. They should look for a righteous mate, whatever the format. Some use poly to hide true intent.
Yeah, there's a part in the Anu way that really in marriage that speaks about women who come into or they say, I guess they set the stage for being absorbed into a family, and they come in so that they could hide behind other women, or they could hide within that space. And so, I think it's profound that you say that they come looking for a poly relationship, or poly. I didn't know that was a thing, though. I didn't know that, women came looking for. What?
Remember the video? I think it was a story. I don't remember if it was shared.
I remember.
Yes, Miss and I'm gonna be checking on my businesses, and she gonna be
fluttering fantasies. Yes, whatever. I remember.
Yes,
this
fluttering
is true.
Fantasy.
This is true.
Full of it.
It's true.
So yes. And it was like, well, judging by the way you're speaking, you don't even have a homestead right now. You just, you just kind of out there. So yeah. Big, but I feel you, because I was like, people do that. I thought the same thing. Like, really? But then when I saw that, when that was shared, this was a video. I don't know where it is. Maybe we'll find it. If someone remembers, you could put it in the comments, so people can understand the example that we're talking about. Right. But it might be one of those things that was deleted because she got a lot of comments.
Yeah, maybe you don't need to go look for it.
Right.
She says,
she's crazy.
She says best to send those youth to their father or his kin. This is true, because when you talk about
option number 2, that's actually option number 1.
That's option number 1.
That's option number 1.
It is. Wow.
So there are only 2 choices.
There's nothing to add to that. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Option A, door number 1 or door number 2. And door number 2 is just the plan B. That's just the plan B. Plan A.
Again, if it is plan B, then it means that you and your youth have to be fully prepared for that cultural shift. I keep saying that.
And that separation.
That separation that has to be there. That has to be there. Because if they haven't, and youth are, easy to coerce sometimes. So it's really.
It depends on the age.
It depends on the age, yes, I guess.
Because once they've been tainted by kind of like,
Sister Kashia says, I specifically and intentionally forgot about that female.
Well, but I don't know. I thought, okay, we won't put it. Don't put it. In
don't go looking for her.
Don't put it in chat. Don't go look at it. It's probably gone anyway, because she might have realized how silly that was. But but it was just like, what? And that until that, it was like when I read it in the Anu, I was like, really? Like, do people do that? And I was like, I guess, well, it wouldn't be here if people didn't, because I'm not a man and I don't have that experience of a poly man who sees multiple women, so I wouldn't know.
Right.
But it was a real live example when I saw that, and I was like, wow, like, okay, that's what we're doing. Okay. She says many non-Anu would not see the serpent in that video speaking through her. Not even worth resharing. Okay. Message received.
Message.
We talked about that today. message. And so, okay, so that's all we have. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was important to share that. And I think we'll probably, the part about like how we absorb, because I guess, I think she talked about that, like how we're in this stage of blending, right? But we have to be very mindful about what that blending means. So that's why option number 1 is the best.
Oh, when we're in the state. That's when we were charged to actually share
The
what
dispensation. I put my
dispensation that
dispensation
we were in.
I put it in there.
I put mine in too, by the
Mhm.
way.
Just want to share that publicly. Everybody can see it. I shared it. So that's all we have. That is the chapter, the paragraph, the paragraph, second paragraph on separation under betrothal, and why that separation, and just some examples, I should say, of why the separation is important and needed, because it's literally that preparation period. So it's like separation equals preparation almost. So that's all we have. Thank you so much for joining us. We are moving into Yom. No, that's not Yom, because I was going to say Yom Shabbat. Well, I guess it is, but yes, we're moving into Shabbat. So peace, everyone. Give thanks for joining us. Good. I was gonna say, because I saw a max of 14. I'm like, where's the thumbs? So give thanks, everyone. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell down below. You can also find the ANU Way on the ALGM website. That's www.anulifeglobal.org. You can also find the other works of Chief Yuya: Mind, Heart, Words, The Compass, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family, The 14 Keys, Noir Male. Missing one.
The Compass?
I said it.
Oh, that's it.
That's everything. You can find those also on the ALGM website, which puts you to links of where to purchase the book. But the On the Way is for free, so you can download it. So next time when you come in, you can follow along. You can also print it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For free. Well, I know you gotta buy the paper yourself.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for making space for me. I enjoyed it.
I'm so nervous.
Super nervous, but yeah, this was good. Thank you all.
So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Peace. See all my fingers in the